What is going on? How is everybody doing today? Welcome to the Risen Fallen podcast. I am your host, Mark Hendrickson, and if you're brand new to this show, then what you can expect is open and authentic conversations about things like mental health and self-development and how to get your life moving in the right direction if you're not feeling good about where you are right now. At least having the confidence knowing that, you're making one step closer to who you'd like to be and the life you'd like to lead every single day. And along the way, you're lifting other people up as well. And so if you're brand new to this show, then thank you very much for joining us. And if you are, if you're not new to this show, if you're a returning listener, returning viewer, returning guest, anything like that, then thank you very much for coming back and supporting the idea, supporting the notion of, like I said, making yourself 1% better every single day and helping other people along the way as well. And so, welcome to the show. Happy Thursday. We are pounding through this week. I hope that you guys are doing well this week. I hope that your week is going well. And if it's not, then, it's okay. It's all right. I've had a couple rough weeks in the last couple weeks, and I just want to let you know that if you are going through something right now, if you're having a tough time, if you're going through something that's making your life a little bit less enjoyable, then I just want to let you know that you're not alone, and life can and will get better for you. And you just make sure that you're focusing as much as you can, and make sure that you are able to, be present and be grateful for the things that you have in your life that you have to be grateful for. The people that you love, the things that you love, the things that you are blessed to get to have in your presence today. And so, just a little reminder to think about that. And so, one of the things that, I've always found super interesting about human beings, a little random segue into today's episode, but one of the things I've always found super interesting about human beings is how tribal we are, how much we like to, put ourselves in a certain group and say, I'm part of this group, I'm part of this thing, and it becomes part of our identity. The flip side of that is, the people that aren't in that group become, the other people. And some of the ways that we, see this manifest is obviously in politics and in many different ways, like sports teams and where we live and, what we do for work. There's people that, the industry that I work in is like kind of like a blue collar. I work in the construction industry. I'm a carpenter. And so, we think of ourselves like, oh, I'm a blue collar worker. I'm a white collar worker. I'm a business person. I'm a this person. I'm a that person. And one of the funniest ways I feel like human beings are tribal is with consumerism, is with the things that we purchase, the ways that we identify with how we purchase things. And this comes in many different ways, from what kind of cars we buy, what kind of tools we buy, what kind of, where we buy houses, what kind of home we live in, like whether that's a house or an apartment, if it's downtown, if it's in a rural area. When it comes to consumerism and how we spend our money, we always like to, separate ourselves and each other into these little tribes of like, how we spend our money, when we spend our money, what we spend, like how much money we're spending. And obviously, the like where you draw your influence from and what influences you is going to be different for everybody. For some people, it's what your parents bought, it's what your dad bought, your father, your mother, what your friends bought, what your the people around you growing up, what your coworkers buy, what your boss buys, what your boyfriend or girlfriend buys, what your husband or wife. You start to slowly adapt what you buy, when you buy, or where you buy, or etc. You adapt that to the people around you. And so if you're around a bunch of people that spend a bunch of money on partying and frivolous things like just going out to eat and drinking and drugs and doing shit like that, you'll probably start to spend your money on those things. I know for myself, when I worked in the gym and when I worked in the fitness industry, I spent a lot of money on stupid shit like gym clothes and shoes and just trying to, it was really all encompassing of what I was doing in the gym, which was just trying to improve how I looked, how I presented myself to other people. And that was exactly how I spent my money as well. But, what I wanted to talk about today is specifically the tribalism that we have in this kind of consumerism. And, I work in the trades. Like I said, I'm a carpenter. I do home renovations. And one of the things that happens in the trades is people judge each other based on like the brand of tools we have. Like I'm a I'm a Milwaukee guy because my dad and my cousin are Milwaukee guys, and they taught me how to do my job. And half the tools that I got were hand-me-downs or used from them. And so when it came to like batteries and chargers and all these cordless tools, it was like most of my stuff was Milwaukee. And so I didn't want to buy a new charger. I didn't want to buy new batteries. I didn't want to buy all these new things. I just, continued getting what I already had to supplement what I already had, what was handed to me, what I was blessed to get from other people, what I received from them. But then you go on the job site and, I'm the carpenter. I've got a certain branded tools. Maybe the electrician has his branded tools. Maybe the plumber has his branded tools. They have, maybe some DeWalt, some Rigid, some whatever they fucking Ryobi for goodness sake. There's all these different, Makita, any of these like different, like some of these things are just like Amazon brands as well, which is like fine. Like realistically, it's so funny how we start to judge not just ourselves but other people as well on what they buy and the brands they buy, and we have this weird like tribalism, like, oh, that person uses that kind of tools, and I think that we get this kind of judgment for other people of like, oh, well, a professional would be using this brand or because I use it. And sometimes it's like, things aren't bad just because they're different. Sometimes they're just different, and I know, like, obviously when it comes to tools, a lot of there's obviously good qualities and better qualities and different things. Like even different brands will make different, lines of like, oh, maybe this one's better than that one. Maybe this brand makes better batteries, but the other brand makes better tools. Like maybe one of them's more water resistant. Maybe one of them has more torque, or maybe one of them has different settings, or maybe, there's all these different, there's pros and cons to every single one of these decisions. So yeah, maybe your favorite brand is the best at the one thing that you value, but maybe other people value different things, and the brand that they like is better at doing those things. And I think that a lot of the time we get so stuck and pigeonholed into this idea of like, well, obviously all the brands that I like are the best because I like the best things, or I like them because of this reason or that reason. But everybody feels that fucking exact same way. And so I think that a lot of the time it's the same as a lot of other things in life, which is, there's no like one size fit all. It's a one size fit one type of thing. And I think that a lot of the time we attach our identities and we attach our, ideas or beliefs to these, sometimes these are like household, like Canadian staples, and sometimes, or American, wherever you are. But, or sometimes these are just like kind of like local, like brands that you support. And, I'm not saying that this is necessarily a good or a bad thing that we do this. I'm just saying like it's important to be mindful and present and aware of why you have loyalty to certain brands, or, how that can even hinder your life in certain areas. And so another example I could give is like vehicles. We talked about tools, but another thing that is pretty prevalent in the industry that I work in, where if you work in construction or any blue collar trade or anything like that, most of these jobs require you to have like a truck or a van or some sort of SUV, something to carry around yourself, your tools, your materials, and probably a little bit of junk from the job, and helping out the homeowner taking the garbage out of there. And so a lot of the time that requires, like I said, a truck, a van, an SUV, or something like that. And I think that a lot of us have this same type of tribalism in the consumerism and how we spend our money with different brands with vehicles as well. Like I always grew up as a GM Chevrolet guy. Every truck I've ever owned, pretty much every vehicle I've ever owned, other than a Honda that I drove for a bit, has been a General Motors or a product like that, like a Chevrolet, like something, and I'm familiar with it. I grew up working on them. My dad grew up with them. Like he always had them when I was a kid. My cousins always drove them, my uncles, and so like it always was like a General Motors family. And so we've always had like that kind of toolbox talking shit about, oh, that guy drives a Ford, and we all know what Ford stands for, and there's a million and one of those. I don't know. You can comment one of your favorite ones below if you're watching the YouTube version of this, but there's Dodges, there's all these different, Honda's making trucks now, Toyota's making, they have this engine now, like they bought a Cummins engine a few years back, like all these different things. And, we have all this tribalism and like, mine is the best. You drive this, I drive that. And like, we'll razz each other. We razz, like, all of our friends obviously drive different trucks. And so, like, we bug the one buddy when his is in the shop. We're like, typical Ford, typical whatever. And then, like, I've got some electrical issues in my Silverado, and it's like, oh, typical Chevy. Like, there's always, like, each one is going to have its own pros and cons. And we get so attached and so, tribal with the way that we prefer. Oh, I prefer this brand. And, I think a lot of the times that can hinder us if we're making, logical decisions in life. If we actually were to break down and think about, this is a tool for me to do a certain job, like get from A to B, or carry these things, or tow this thing, or haul this thing, or do this, that, whatever. But I think that we forget about, just achieving the objective of, like, okay, if I'm going to purchase a vehicle, do I have to purchase the same brand that I've always purchased? Do I have to have that type of brand loyalty? Does it really benefit me? Or could I get something cheaper that makes a little bit more sense for myself? Or maybe something, spend a little bit more money on something that makes a little bit more sense for myself. I think we get so attached to these brand names, and we become so loyal to these corporations that we really will just gobble up anything that they sell. And like, Apple is a perfect fucking, example of that. Like, anybody who's a big fanatic over Apple products will literally, like, pretty much fight you if you start to disagree that it's the most superior product. And which is the funniest thing about, the whole thing, which is like, I even myself, I was a staunch, like, anti-Apple, like, card carrying, Android using, like, PC using, consumer for the longest time, until I realized how much easier for myself, even just with this podcast, how easy it would be, if I got a Mac, if I got an Apple phone, and I could just airdrop files back and forth seamlessly, and this, that, whatever it could be. And again, it was like, do I want to make this purchase, this decision based off of, like, will it make my life easier? Will it save me time? Will it save me energy? Will it make me have to think about dumb, monotonous things less often? Then I'm probably going to make that decision. Is it based off of loyalty to a brand that, in the end of the day, doesn't give a shit about me and really only cares about turning profits and making money, which, not a evil thing in and of itself, but it's like, at the end of the day, they don't care about us. They don't care about me or you or anything like that. So really, the only way that we should be loyal to them is if they can provide what we want. We should only really give our money to things that we support. If we want what they have, then we buy it. It's a pretty free market concept of just, like, being a little bit more mindful of the tribalism and the loyalty that we have to the places that we spend our money. And, if you don't feel good about the way that a business is being conducted or the way that they treat their consumers, then you're going to have to decide, like, is it worth it to spend my money there? Or would I really, even if it inconveniences me a little bit, I have to drive a little bit further or go a little bit long, make a fucking couple more phone calls to support a business or a company that I prefer, or just go out of my way to avoid supporting somebody that I just piss me off and that I really don't like, then, that's something that you're going to have to become mindful of, and just kind of overcome that tribalism in that way, and just kind of embrace the nuance of, like, look, there's so many options out there. There's so many different things that you could attach to your identity. And so I think that we should just be careful about what we are attaching to our identity, and how much we could be closing ourselves off from options that are out there that could make our lives better, but we're just too stubborn or too, quote unquote, loyal to a brand that doesn't really care about us to make a decision that's actually going to make our lives better. And so, like I said, I see, like, obviously loyalty is it's a virtue. It's something that should be, it should be looked up to. But I think that blind loyalty to random, like, just think about why you're being loyal to it. Are you just being loyal to it because, you're afraid of judgment from people around you? You're afraid that, oh, your friends are going to laugh at you or make fun of you because you changed your mind, or you made a different decision than you normally make? Like, if it actually improves your life, and if it actually makes the quality of your life better, or if it just makes logical sense, then what are you really holding yourself back from? So I just wanted to come on here and think about the way that we trick ourselves and attach these random things like brand loyalty to our identity. You know, I think that we should really just focus on being a little bit less loyal to these brands and corporations and companies that really don't care about our well-being, and be a little bit more loyal to ourselves and think about our own, quality of life and how we feel, and serving the purpose that getting a tool that serves its purpose and gets the job done, and think about maybe what you need to get done in life. And on that note, I think that that's a beautiful place to wrap this up. Starting to talk in circles here, which is how I usually know how to wrap things up here. So I'm going to take a little sip of tea. Happy Thursday. Hope this carries you guys into the weekend and gives you something to think about. Maybe it was thought-provoking. If you enjoyed it, if you made you think of new things, or gives you a new perspective, or just you were laughing at the way that I stumbled over my words, then share this with a friend. Send it to somebody that you feel like needs to hear this or could hear this, or they've got nothing better to listen to right now. It helps boost me in the algorithm. So just hit share and send it to fucking 5 people if you think it's going to make their life better, or if maybe you want to nag them but you don't want to do it yourself. Just let me do it. So on that note, much love, peace out. See you guys on Monday next week. Enjoy the weekend. Bye. Love you all. Peace.